All right, welcome to today's You're Going to Learn Today podcast with Sheila, Benjamin, and Nusa. Today we're going to be talking about three things. We're going to be talking about enlightenment, empowerment, and the divine. We'll first start off with enlightenment. Enlightenment is a state of having knowledge or understanding. When you're enlightened, you're free from ignorance, misinformation, and enlightened people have full comprehension of problems involved, factually well-informed, and tolerant of alternative opinions, and they're guided by rational thought. What are your additives about enlightenment?
Okay, first, to be enlightened people, it is so very important that we become enlightened. To become enlightened, you've already given us the definition of it, but let's talk about that a little deeper. To be enlightened means that you are knowledgeable about the important things that's going to go on in your life. We have to realize that we've been brainwashed, and we have been brainwashed to believe everything that we see, everything that we hear. When you become an enlightened person, you do not take everything at face value. Just because someone said it, just because the powers that be is saying one particular thing, that doesn't become your reality. That doesn't become what you automatically believe. Enlightened beings, they look deeper. They look for the things that's not been said. They look for the things that's not been told to them. And they learn how to go to a different level of consciousness so they can truly find the answers that they see. So enlightenment means that you're not in doubt. You're enlightened about what is really going on. So when we talk about enlightenment, we are talking about the fact that, okay, I might be telling you that the sky is black, and you may think the sky's not black, but she says that the sky's black, so I guess the sky's black, because why else would she be telling me that the sky is black? When you are an enlightened person, you're going to investigate, and you're going to you're going to form your opinion from a place of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So you're not going to take my word for whatever. You're going to investigate and make sure that my word is true. Now, after you find out that I am a truth speaker, and after you figure out that if I'm saying it, that it's most likely true, because I am going to have already did my homework. When you become enlightened, you're free. You're free to see things the way they really are. Because see, most of us, because we only operate on this level of consciousness, we never bother to try to operate on another level of consciousness. And because we don't, then we are bound by what people tell us, what we're seeing on this level of consciousness. But you need to understand that when you operate on a higher level of consciousness, you become more enlightened. You become more enlightened about the things that's going on around you. You would be shocked to come to the realization that this isn't that and that isn't this. I have been saying for years and telling people for years and years and years that this isn't that and that isn't this, because it's never what we think it is. It's always deeper. So when you become enlightened, you're not bound by society. You're not bound by limitations. You don't have shackles on. You're not being bogged down and held down by untruths, because you become a truth seeker, because you are an enlightened being. And so now that you're enlightened, that you're free to learn. You're free to learn. You're free to expand. You're free to grow. You're free to think outside of the box. Like when someone comes and tells me something, I hear the words that's coming out of their mouth, but my mind has a completely different conversation because I'm enlightened. I hear what they're not telling me. I hear what they're not saying. So most of the time when you're talking to me, there's three conversations going on. It's the conversation that you're having, it's the conversation that I'm having, and it's the conversation that you're having that you don't know that you're having, but I know that you're having. Because a lot of times people don't realize that they got all of this stuff going on. And because they don't understand it, then, their minds can't conceive it. So, I want you to understand that when you become an enlightened being, you are free. It's like you're not ignorant of anything. You're able to seek and find the answers that you're looking for. You're very knowledgeable about life. The things that you do not know, you don't claim to know. You just simply seek the answer. I was talking yesterday and I was saying, seek and you will find. Because you have to understand that our purpose is to be the light. And I had to go into detail yesterday because then I got a phone call and someone asked me to explain what I meant by be the light. Okay, I mean by being the light that you become the light that lights your own path, that radiates your own path, that shows your own self the way to go. How do you do that? By going to a different level of consciousness and meeting your greater self. Because at another level of consciousness, there is a greater you on that level of consciousness. There's answers, there's solutions. Everything you need is found on another layer of consciousness that was put there for you, but you have to be enlightened enough to know where to go to seek the answers and where to find the answers. What do I mean by we are the light, we become the light? Because listen, if the Bible tells us, and other books tells us that we were created in the image of God, wouldn't it make sense to you that our goal then should be to try to be like God? And if we're going to try to be like God, it's going to require us to have an enlightened, awakened spiritual experience. It's gonna, not religious, not tradition, none of that. I'm talking about something that's outside of what you can even imagine. I'm talking about something that's going to help you to go deeper and deeper into your greater self and come out powerful. I'm talking about power. There's power on the inside of you. So when you're enlightened, you're able to embrace the fact that you can travel to another dimension inside yourself that's going to take you to a different level of consciousness on your way to God consciousness. I tell you all the time, you have to become the light. You have to become the light that shines on the pathway that you're taking. You have to become the light that radiates your path. And you know what? When you radiate your path, a lot of times your light is so bright because you're enlightened and you're operating on a different level of consciousness that your light is so bright that not only does it light your path, but it lights other people's path. And you have to understand that we are on a journey. And so we are on a journey to get everyone to God consciousness. As many people as we can, we need to get them to God consciousness. We need you to become the light. The light's on the inside of you, but it's just dull. It's just dim. Why? Because you haven't been enlightened to understand that the light is on the inside of you. You don't understand that you are the light. And once you understand that you are the light, you are on your way to God consciousness. And as you travel on the road to God consciousness, you become more and more like Him. That should be everyone's goal. Remember, the Bible says that we were wonderfully and marvelously made in the image of the Most High God. Remember that if we're made in His image, it's like people will tell you when they're talking about your family, like they tell me all the time, I look just like my oldest sister. Okay, so we have the same bloodline, so it makes sense to me and her that we would look alike. But when you are thinking about that you were created in the image of God, then you have to realize that it's intended for you to become like God. It's intended for you to be a spiritual being. It's intended for you to be able to operate on a different level of consciousness than just this level of consciousness that we're operating on here. And enlightenment allows you to realize that. Enlightenment allows you to see things the way they really are and tap into your inner strength, your inner ability, your inner greatness. It's all on the inside of you. As I leave the topic of enlightenment, I want you to know that enlightenment allows you to walk in your destiny. It allows you to walk in your purpose. It allows you to do the things that you didn't even know that you could do, because now you're enlightened to the fact that there's different levels of consciousness. You're enlightened to the fact that your goal is to have God consciousness because you were created in his image. So you must learn to worship him in honesty and in truth and in spirit. And so therefore, we have to have a spiritual awakening. And when we have that spiritual awakening, it allows us to do and be more like God. That's what it is all about. It allows us, once we have that spiritual awakening, it allows us to realize that our goal is God consciousness and our goal is to be like him. So therefore, we have to take the path of spiritual awakening so we can reach God consciousness, because we have to be spiritually awakened in order to reach God's consciousness.
Okay, so we'll move on to empowerment. Empowerment is authority or power given to someone to do something, the process of becoming stronger or more confident, especially in controlling one's life or claiming one's rights.
Okay, so when we talk about empowerment, it always goes back to becoming the light, because you become the light that radiates your own path. As you radiate your path, you radiate other people's path along the way. So when you become enlightened, you also become empowered, because now you are empowered to use a power that you didn't even realize that you had. If I go back to a Bible scripture again, it says, greater things shall we do. And it's a part in the Bible that says, you can do greater things shall you do, but it also says that he has given us dominion, power, and authority over everything. But if you don't realize that you have that power and authority over everything, then you are not empowered. You become empowered when you realize that the power that you need has been put on the inside of you, and it's been put on the inside for you to use. So it's not that all of a sudden you just got the power. The power was there all the time, but you weren't enlightened enough to know that the power was within you. So once you get enlightened, with that enlightenment becomes empowerment. You now have the power to operate. You now have the power to do the things that you didn't know you could do. And most of us don't even realize that there's different level of consciousness, and that we have the ability to operate on a different level of consciousness, because that's not something you're taught. That's not something that's talked about. Why? Because the world, we live in a dark world. So it's not wanting us to have God consciousness. It does not want us to strive to be like our Creator, but instead it's to keep us bogged down to where we feel like that we can't go on, to where we feel like that we don't know what to do. So when I talk about God consciousness, you need to know that that's a journey. And most of the time, we need a spiritual guide. We need someone that's going to open up our mind and help us become enlightened and empowered. And that's what we do here as one of the Eternals. We help guide you to your spiritual enlightenment, to your empowerment, to your journey to where you realize that you become the light that radiates your own path, that everything you need is within you. The power has already been put there in you, but you can't use the power because you didn't know you had the power. And so once you become enlightened, you also become empowered to use the power that's always been there, to use the power that was put on the inside of you just for you to use. You are powerful. You can do so many things, but because you don't know that you can do those things, nobody has took you on a path to where you're being enlightened and empowered. Nobody's took you on a path to where you're able to operate in a different level of consciousness. Nobody has actually took you on that path. So therefore, you don't know about it. So you can't be held responsible for what you don't know. And so with that being said, then you have to come to realize that empowerment means that you're able to use something and utilize something that's always been there. That's just like if we're in this room And we know we have electrical power. We know that the power is there. And so, but we know about it, right? So because we know about it, we're empowered to use that, because all we have to do is walk over there and turn on the light switch, and guess what? Voila, we're going to have lights. It's the same thing about the power that operates on the inside of you and I. You know, you have power, I have power. And so in order for me to use the power, I have to be empowered to do so. In order for me to be empowered to do so, I have to be enlightened, so I realize what is on the inside of me, so I can operate in the fullness of life, so I can operate in the power that's on the inside of me. I want y'all to understand there's power, unstoppable power on the inside of you. The fabric of your very life can be changed, but you have to know how to do it. You have to know the process. You have to believe. You have to know what is on the inside of you, and that takes enlightenment. It takes empowerment. It takes knowledge. It takes wisdom. And you've got to learn all of this. But it's a journey that's well worth the taking, because you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have good days, bad days. You're going to be empowered to believe like never before. And so all of what I'm talking about today goes hand in hand. All of it is, it fits with each other. And so when you get one, then the next step is the other, and the next step is the other. But our goal is Christ consciousness. And you're going to hear me say that every time you hear me talk, because I need you to stay focused. I need you to focus on the prize. I need you to focus on, this may be where we are right now, but our goal is to reach God consciousness, and that's what we shall do.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the divine. So divine is defined as God-like characteristics of befitting, heavenly, celestial, extremely good, unusually loved, and becoming God-like, devoted to God, religious, sacred, and divine worship goes also along with that. Okay,
it was one of them in there that I don't agree with, but okay, we're going to go with this. Divine. Again, as I told you, that all of these words, all of these topics that we're talking about today goes hand in hand. So you notice how when she gave the definition of divine, it said Christ-like. So that was one of the things that it said, but everything that it was saying was pointing towards heaven, spirituality, so as we talk about divine, we need to understand that if we're going to say divine, we're going to have to talk about Christ. Christ consciousness. To be divine means that each and every day that we become more and more like Him. So that's the goal, to be divine. And so if you notice how all three of these words kind of like intertwine and build up on top of the other. Because as we started out with enlightenment, but then after we went from enlightenment and we got the basis for enlightenment, the next thing was empowerment. Well, after the empowerment, the next thing would be God consciousness, because you're on a divine journey, a divine spiritual experience that is going to allow you to become the light. It's going to allow you to become divine. What does divine mean? Christ-like. And so all of this goes hand in hand. And so keep in mind that your goal is to be Christ-like. Your goal is, I'm not talking about religion, because you can be Christ-like regardless of what religion you are. I'm not into religion. My father was a Baptist minister. I was a Baptist for a long time, non-denominational for a long time, but I'm more interested in the spiritual aspect of things. I'm more interested in your spiritual journey, and that's what we're here talking about, your spiritual journey. I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care anything about any of that. You can tell me that you're no denomination. What I want to know is if you want to take this spiritual journey to where you reach a level of God consciousness that you've never even dreamed of being able to reach. And as you reach this level of God consciousness, you learn so much along the way. And you have to understand that the destination is God consciousness, but there's a journey to get to God consciousness, and you learn so much. You learn to embrace so much. There's so much for you as you travel along this journey to God consciousness, that you don't want to miss any of it. And so I tell you all the time, it's about your spiritual relationship. It's about your spiritual awakening. It's about becoming divine, because He is divine. And if you were created in the image of the Most High God, then that is where you need to be striving to get to. All of these rituals and all of this other stuff and all of the many different things that people throw into the equation, what's that got to do with your spirituality? What does that have to do with God consciousness? What does that have to do with your personal relationship? What does that have to do with you commanding and controlling and speaking over life, over your own life and over your family's life? What does that have to do with you tapping into the inner dimension of self? Because guess what? It all came from the Creator. What was put on the inside of you was put there from the Creator. So the greatness that is on the inside of me, the Creator put it there. But the Creator put it there for me to seek and for me to find. That's why I said earlier, I said seek and you shall find. Seek and you shall find. If you seek it, it's on the inside of you. So if you seek it, you're going to find it. But guess what? You don't have to go out here to find it. When you seek it, it's on the inside of you, so you find it. But you've got to be seeking it. And I say over and over and over that you seek is truly seeking you. So I'm seeking the divine, but the divine is seeking me. I'm seeking enlightenment, but enlightenment is seeking me. I'm seeking empowerment, but empowerment is seeking me. I'm seeking the light, but I become the light. I radiate on my own path. I am the light to shine in a dark world. That's what you've got to understand. Become the light. Become your own light. Let your light so shine that the world shall see it and know the way. That's what I'm talking about. All of this other stuff, I don't know what to tell you about that. But if you're ready to take a spiritual journey, if you're ready to be enlightened, if you're ready to be empowered, if you're ready to tap into the divine, and if you're ready to take a journey to God consciousness, then this is the place that you need to be. And I am your spiritual guide. OneLifeAgency.com.
All right, that concludes today's You're Gonna Learn Today podcast with Sheila Benjamin Anusa. You can catch us on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1 p.m. You can also catch replays of this on OneLifeAgency.com. You can follow our YouTube, One Life Agency. And that concludes our You're Gonna Learn Today podcast.